He sat alone in the shelter, head down, eyes hollow. Families walked past without a glance. Too old, they said. Too broken. But then, one little boy knelt beside him and saw something no one else had noticed. A worn metal tag. 5 words. That changed everything and exposed a secret. He sat in the farthest corner of the shelter, silent and still, while other dogs barked and wagged their tails, hoping for a second chance. The German Shepherd remained motionless, his eyes distant, tired. Volunteers called him Max, but he didn't respond to his name anymore. Days turned into weeks. Weeks. Into months. Families came and went, passing by his kennel without a glance. He looks too serious, one mother whispered. Probably aggressive, said another. Notes on his chart read, reserved, unresponsive, not recommended for families. The staff tried their best, new toys, gentle words, even treats, but nothing seemed to reach him. Whatever life he had before, it had been hard. And whatever he was waiting for, hadn't walked through that door. Not yet. The shelter was loud with excitement that Saturday. Children laughed, dogs barked, and hopeful families filled the halls. But one boy, small and quiet with wide, thoughtful eyes, moved differently. He didn't run to the puppies or toss treats. He walked slowly, scanning each kennel as if searching for something only he could see. Then he stopped at in the far corner. Behind a metal gate, he saw the German Shepherd, still, quiet, watching him. Unlike the others, the dog didn't bark or move. The boy crouched down and peered in. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, inching closer. Volunteers warned, "He doesn't like people." But the boy didn't flinch. He reached out gently, his fingers brushing the worn leather collar. That's when he saw the tag. The metal tag was scratched, weathered by time, but the boy squinted and read the faint letters aloud. For duty and honor, K9RH08. He tilted his head. "What does that mean?" he asked softly to a staff. Member overheard and approached, puzzled. "That tag's been on him this whole time," she asked, kneeling to get a better look. None of them had ever paid attention to the small, grimy tag before. The boy's curiosity lit a spark. "K9, like a police dog?" he asked. The staff exchanged glances. They pulled up the dog's file. Nothing special noted. No mention of a handler, no service record, no chip, but something didn't sit right. The boy's eyes stayed locked on the tag. "I think he's more than just a shelter dog," he whispered. Later that afternoon, the shelter made a few calls. One reached a retired police officer named Daniels, who had served with the K9 unit years ago. When he heard the tag ID, K9RH08, his voice cracked. "You found him." Within an hour, Officer Daniels arrived. The moment he stepped into the room and saw the dog, his eyes filled with tears. "Ranger," he whispered. The shepherd lifted his head slowly, recognition flickering in his tired eyes. "This dog saved lives," Daniels said firmly. "He was a hero, bomb detection, search and rescue. He went missing after a storm during our final deployment. Somehow, Ranger had ended up in the system with no history attached. Lost in paperwork. Forgotten by time. Until one boy noticed and remembered what others didn't. Despite the emotional reunion, the shelter director hesitated. "He's listed as behaviorally unfit," she explained. "We can't place him in a home. He needs special care." But the boy stepped forward. Eyes steady. "He doesn't need a cage," he said. "He needs someone to remember who he is." His parents exchanged glances. They had come just to look, never expecting to leave with a dog, let alone a retired K9. But the boy's words carried weight. "We'll foster him," his mother finally said. "Just to see." With gentle hands, the boy clipped a new leash onto Ranger's collar. The old shepherd didn't resist. For the first time in months, he walked out of the shelter, not just as a dog, but as someone's second chance. At first, Ranger was quiet, watchful, cautious in his new surroundings. But the boy never rushed him. He laid out a blanket beside Ranger's bed each night, whispering softly until the dog's breathing slowed. He read books aloud, shared his snacks, even gave Ranger his favorite toy. Days passed, and something began to change. Ranger's ears perked up at the boy's voice. His tail wagged, slow at first, then stronger. He followed the boy from room to room, like a silent shadow. It wasn't just the dog who was healing. The boy, once shy and withdrawn, now smiled more, laughed more. They were two souls stitched together by something invisible, something deeper than rescue. It was as if they had found what both had been missing. One windy evening, the boy slipped outside with a flashlight in hand. Their cat hadn't come home, and worry tugged at his heart. Without telling anyone, he wandered into the wooded edge of the neighborhood. Inside, Ranger stirred. Something wasn't right. His ears snapped forward. Then, without hesitation, he pushed through the back door, nose to the ground, tracking his boy's scent. Near a narrow ravine, the boy had slipped, stranded and scared. "Help!" he cried, voice trembling. Moments later, Ranger appeared through the trees, barking with urgency. Nearby hikers heard the commotion. Minutes later, the boy was pulled to safety. Tears rolled down his mother's cheeks as she hugged him tight. The same dog once caged behind bars had just saved another life. News of the rescue spread like wildfire. "Retired K9 saves local boy," the headline read. Reporters came. Cameras rolled. But through it all, Ranger stayed calm, always by the boy's side, quiet, composed, as if it was just another mission. The local police department paid a visit. One officer knelt, saluting softly. "You served with honor," he said, slipping a polished badge onto Ranger's collar. A week later, at a small-town ceremony, Ranger stood tall beside the boy as crowds clapped and cheered. The mayor handed the boy a plaque. To the one who saw what no one else did. Ranger, once discarded and forgotten, had found not only a home, but a legacy. And the town would never forget him again. After the ceremony, there was no more talk of fostering. The boy's parents filled out the adoption papers with proud smiles, sealing Ranger's forever home. He wasn't just a pet now. He was family. At school, the boy shared Ranger's story during show and tell. Kids listened in awe as he spoke, holding up the old collar tag. "It says, 'For duty and honor,'" he said. And that's exactly who he is. They framed the tag and placed it above Ranger's bed, a symbol of everything he'd been through and everything he meant. The boy often whispered, "I'm glad I saw you," before falling asleep. And Ranger, curled nearby, would thump his tail softly, because he knew he had finally been seen and finally come home. As the seasons changed, so did the boy and the dog. Ranger, once a forgotten soul in a crowded shelter, now walked proudly through town, his head high, his collar shining. But it wasn't the tag that defined him anymore. It was the love behind it. The narrator's voice closed in gently. "Sometimes, the world overlooks the quiet ones, the ones who've been through too much. But all it takes is one person to truly look and see what others don't." The boy hadn't just adopted a dog. He had uncovered a story, a legacy, and a lifelong friend. And in return, Ranger gave him something no one else could, because when loyalty finds love, it doesn't just change lives, it saves them.